Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, rolling. Sahar.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
It's very good to have you over
It's
here.
good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Wallah, thank you for coming. Such an interesting character, inspiring story.
I'm all right.
Looking forward to hear a lot. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm very good. So excited to hear about your story, honestly. Thank you for this. I didn't open it intentionally because I didn't want to see what it's like قبل. So I don't fake it right now.
The element of surprise.
What is it? So tell me about it first.
So this is, we have an amazing chocolate factory here.
أولا لا دعاية من البداية.
Yes.
Bingo.
I gotta support my own people.
Well, you have to.
So Merzam actually makes amazing chocolate, but what they also do is they do community building, which I'm very big on. And what they've done for the UAE National Day, for the 50th UAE National Day, is they've created a cookbook of a traditional recipe that's been passed down by your mother or your grandmother.
My mother?
Or anybody's mother.
What the hell is
and
this?
then
This looks beautiful. What is it?
A reinterpretation of it. That's a leguemat.
Leguemat?
Yeah.
Doesn't look like one.
That's a sahar leguemat, a 2021 leguemat.
And how is that different?
Structurally, it's different, but what I try to do is...
شلون ما ادري يبين ما اعرف اذا تشوفونها انها الجيمات ولا لا. I don't know. I don't see this الجيمات, but anyways, tell me.
When you taste, so I keep the integrity of the leguemat, but it looks and feels different. So
Obviously.
and I love doing that. So you'll have, well, I'll let you try it first.
Talk.
So it's a choux bun. Inside you have a spiced custard, a caramel cream, and some dips, obviously date syrup. How does that feel?
It's really good. It's الجيمات.
Yeah. So that's my thing. I take the things that register in your brain, but confuses your brain.
It is confusing my brain because
You're like, I know this, but it doesn't look like what I know.
I feel this.
I feel it. I feel the nostalgia.
Yeah.
But I can't register, right?
Yeah,
And
and it's the cardamom and
Saffron, cardamom. There's a hint of rose water.
يعني honestly I did not expect. I'm not يعني
لا
doing
تجاملني.
free market. No, I'm not. But I did not expect this because my system was just shocked.
Right.
What the hell did you do here?
Right.
What's different in this? Tell me.
So what's different is, again, like I said, structurally it's different. So I take more modern. It's the same thing.
I wanted to pass it to the boys.
So it's a more modern interpretation of a classic. So I'll take elements. I'll take the leguemat and I'll kind of dissect it. I'll say, okay, what are the...
I'm loving the sesame.
Right?
I'm getting it. It's the same feeling, you know?
That's the aftertaste.
No, not the aftertaste. Even the sesame piece, you know how it stays, you know?
Yeah.
Ramadan. Feels like Ramadan. Because I did not expect this to feel like that. I mean, sorry, I'm still in... It's kind of like PTSD.
But
kind
this
of.
is my favorite thing, to see like people's reactions to the things
Honestly,
that I make.
I did not expect to feel like this. So sorry, I'm being overwhelmed now.
That's okay.
Let's go back to your childhood, and we're gonna reach how we got to this.
Right.
So you were born in
Dubai. Raised in Dubai. Studied in Dubai. Worked in Dubai. Hopefully succeeded in Dubai.
Yesterday, one of top musicians was really, and I don't want to make this personal, I just want to make a statement out here. It was really him and others. Why are you guys talking in English? If you're born and raised in Dubai and all of that, you know? And it's a very interesting aspect to look into, you know, when we look into the globalized system, it's simply Western, you know? And we had Arqam here on the show, and he had his philosophy that English is not Western, English music is not Western, blah, blah, blah. And why is it that we communicate in English?
The way I see it, or the way that I felt it, was growing up, there was a huge push for us to learn English. So, you know, private school, private universities, English, so that you can acclimate and you can fit into the rest of the world, right? So you can be international. And you can be by international standards. So there was a huge push of saying, learn English, study in English, and all of that before, you know, people were saying Mandarin. And then when we kind of when we grew up, the whole Arabic thing started to settle in.
Yeah.
Right?
Back.
Yeah.
Back.
Settle back in.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the reasons why I guess that I would be more comfortable speaking in English.
I mean, that was my answer to him, is like we're definitely keen on focusing on conveying the message rather than that. But what I was trying to preach over here, talking about your career, okay, before your childhood.
Yeah.
In order, do you think in order to go globalized and really get proper exposure, your upbringing, having like that kind of like Western, I would say, globalized kind of setting, school, all of that.
It definitely helped.
It
definitely helped with the communication aspect.
Bingo.
Of trying to communicate what I'm trying to do on a more global level. Because even though it needs more love nationally, I feel like it needed more attention internationally to kind of convey the message of, the الإمارات 2021 to everybody. And you've come across a lot of people living in the UAE saying, I've never met an Emirati and I've been living here for many years. And limiting to only Arabic, and I'm not saying that we need to bend over backwards or anything like that, but limiting to only Arabic means that we're not reaching those people who are a majority of the population in the UAE.
True that.
So it's our duty to kind of communicate to them what our culture is
and
make it more accessible.
It's interesting because language is not only about literal, the literal words as much as, if it's a philosophy, it's manhaj, and manhaj fikri in general, it's like you have to, when someone's like, okay, you have translation, okay, yeah, we know we have translation, but the feeling is different, and we're really keen on having this bridging aspect really taken into consideration seriously,
right?
Because if we don't blend,
what's the point?
What's the point?
What's the point of having people come here to help us, right?
Yeah.
I think my background is a little bit more specific to me. My dad.
You were born in Deira or Bardway?
Deira.
Okay.
OG.
Well, that's the thing, Alhina, we're coming to this. All habayibna.
My dad lived and studied and grew up in Bombay. So predominantly studying English also. So that had a huge factor on our upbringing as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Bombay. Or Bombay, how they call it today.
Or Bombay now. I mean, my dad still calls it Bombay because it'll always be Bombay today.
It was just recent, right? It was we know it as Bombay.
Yeah.
Bombay. We say it here in the UAE, Bombay.
Yeah. I think it was. I remember I was young when the switch happened to
Mumbai.
Yeah.
How old was he when he? Because that's an interesting story.
Yeah. So I believe he moved there when he was, because my grandfather was obviously working between Mumbai or Bombay and Dubai, the UAE. He must have been, I really can't remember, I think 5, all the way up till about 20 years old. So quite a big chunk of his childhood or his upbringing. And then moving to Dubai, and then Dubai being, he was working in Dubai, but he was working with international companies. So again, focusing mostly on speaking English because that was the common ground, where he was traveling to Germany or Japan or wherever.
Back then.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And you were born في Deira.
Yes.
Went to school. It's a private American.
المواكب.
Oh, المواكب. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're fine about sharing that.
Yeah.
Okay. How was that? Were
proud
you there?
alumni.
Where we had one episode and we were like a bit biased for Tahad. So you have the chance to just mic is yours. Just if you want to say anything back. It's a great school. A lot of great friends from that school and very intellectual. There's a good umbrella there. It was unique. Mawakib is a unique school.
Yeah.
Diversified.
Yeah.
Multinational.
Yeah. We
Tell me
ended
about
up,
that.
I mean, we ended up learning 3 languages. So we were learning English, Arabic, and French. And we went to kindergarten there, and kindergarten for us was all in French.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I thought it was English.
No, French.
I thought you just had French as a third language introduced in kindergarten.
Yes.
But along with Arabic instead of English?
Yeah. We didn't study. I don't remember, and I'm pretty sure we did not study.
That's interesting because
yeah.
we used to speak English at home, so that's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
Very
So I spoke, like, I learned English, I guess, from, like, my brother spoke English.
Yeah,
and my parents, obviously. And then kindergarten was in French, and then my cousins mostly spoke Arabic.
Bingo.
So that was the 3 kind of dimension. Of course, I mean, we didn't learn Hindi in school, but
You got it.
you pick
with
it
time.
up.
Was it movies or was it anything that
It
has
was
to do with
movies. I
cookies?
used to watch Bollywood movies with my dad.
Okay.
And then you just pick it up here, right?
Yeah, of course. My dad once got mad at me. I was
Because
with
you
the-
didn't speak.
I was at the barber with him, and there's something that I didn't get, and he was like, you don't know Urdu, and he cursed, and he's like, how are you gonna move in the streets and just deal with these people? I mean, these are part of us, and we're part of them.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah.
From Bollywood.
Yeah.
And all these movies, and your dad's, you got that Hindi kind of thing.
Yeah.
Definitely with cooking, given that we have biryani and we have all of these.
A lot of influence from India in our cooking or in the culture in general.
Even clothing.
Even clothing.
Even
If
attitudes
you're
and
wearing
behaviors.
like zari,
Yeah.
that's Indian, right?
Yeah.
Henna, when we put henna for whatever reason, that's...
Well, I don't know about that because even in Sudan, they put henna, so...
But considering predominantly the population...
But I get your point. I mean, definitely we're
a lot of...
cross-cultured.
Spice route.
Definitely. All of our
Crossover.
spices are from there, right?
Right.
Most of them.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we use bzar, and every house has then their own, kind of mix of these spices.
Yeah.
Fragrances and perfumes.
Exactly.
Oud, all of that.
Yeah. A lot of thing was crossover.
Okay, so tell me about Mawakib and international students and all of that, given that you have, mashallah, skills in languages. So definitely your networking's, you're not...
I was out there hustling as a 5-year-old.
No wonder why.
So yeah, I think that was another reason, that was another, I guess, aspect of an international sort of environment, because Mawakib had people from so many different backgrounds.
You were in Garhoud or Al-Barsha?
Garhoud,
Okay.
OG,
Oh,
always.
OG. You graduated high school from there too?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
زي حالتنا مدرسة واحدة, one school. Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
And all my brothers. So I have 4 older brothers.
So it's family
we
thing
all
again.
graduated from Mawakib, from kindergarten to Mawakib,
Yeah.
to high school. So there were a lot of people from different backgrounds, different nationalities. And I feel like that also contributed to, I think, in general, as Emiratis, we're very used to having people from different backgrounds in our lives or in our culture. We're used to it. It's not a foreign thing. Whereas, like, you might go to, like, a country where the predominantly the population is from that country, and they're really not used to foreigners. We are actually used to foreigners. We're very culturally accepting. We're very considerate. We're, and that comes from school.
I mean, it's a business hub over here. I mean, it's history. It's not only, school is just a reflection. Today, did you see any cooking, what do I call them? Bawadir cooking at school? Yeah.
No.
Not at all.
Not at all. Not at all. At home I did, because
How old were you?
When I started,
when I first
noticed,
yeah.
I think I might have been like 8 or 10, something like that.
Okay, young, yeah.
Obviously, like, I was the only girl, and like my mom really wanted to like bond, and so she'd take me to Izayim, to like gatherings at my aunt's houses or my uncle's houses and things like that. And I had a couple of aunts that were really good at cooking, And I started to notice that I like to go to those houses more than the other houses.
I think they'll pass.
And then it turned into like, okay, like, you know, my aunt made this really amazing. I remember this specifically. She made this like chocolate cake with chocolate cream thing that I really loved, and cherries. And it started turning into something like, okay, I don't want to keep asking my aunt for her to make this for me or to go to her house. I need to start asking her for the recipes so I can make it myself.
Well done.
And so that's how it kind of started. I'd like take this recipe from her, from like my other aunts or my cousins. Obviously, my mom is an amazing cook.
Truly, because because
truly.
everyone says that about his or her mother.
Truly,
so
truly, Maaroufa.
because you're a chef, I wanted you to be objective about
she's
it.
famous for it,
Okay.
like infamous for it.
Okay.
She's incredible, and I cannot cook what she can cook.
Wow.
Yeah,
Mm.
I have more of a pastry background, so I'm very.
We're gonna get into that more, but
yeah,
خلينا still.
So yeah, that's how it started. I started asking for recipes. I wanted to make things myself.
Yeah, what was stimulating that kind of like curious behavior of yours? It was just.
I really loved cooking and pastry. I loved the concept of putting things together, using my hands. I'm way better with my hands than I am like with anything else. So I loved.
So this is why I enjoy pastry more
Yes.
than. Okay,
Yeah.
because it's more of like an art to you.
It is, and it's more chemistry, like the fascination of like, this is a bowl of liquid, and I'm putting it in the oven, and heat and temperature and these ingredients kind of work together, and then like 20 minutes later, it's a cake. I'm like, wow, that's just amazing. Still, to this day, I'm like, this is amazing that this happens. Who thought of this?
Babies.
Yeah.
In a way. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what it is.
More
for
of
me.
like.
And then it developed into like, we started getting the Food Network, and we started like seeing things online, and I realized we're just not getting that quality of pastries or those kinds of desserts in Dubai. So, and it was really frustrating. So then I started making them myself. I'm like, if I can't find it, I'll just make it myself. And then like researching recipes, trying to figure out everything, trial and error, continuously watching shows, reading books about like.
Do you mind sharing any of the shows that had impact?
I remember watching a lot of Barefoot Contessa. I don't know if you know her.
I heard about her.
Ina Garden. I loved her. Do you know her? Sorry?
I love her.
Yeah, Shabib definitely knows her.
She's awesome, right?
He was Paula Dean. My childhood.
Paula Dean is like the butter queen.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking to people who know nothing about what you're talking about. This is Chinese to me. Okay, so let's take that into consideration.
Yeah. So that was it. There was another one. Like, do you remember the Food Network?
Yes.
There was
Yes.
this guy called Jacques Torres. He used to make chocolates.
Yeah, but before him was BBC Food, Nigella Lawson. Then we got Food Network.
And to why? So, do you mind sharing your age? Because you don't have to.
I'm 33.
Okay,
Yeah.
well done. Good for him. MashaAllah. العمر كله. You a year younger than me. Okay, so you are Westernized influenced.
Is it
Indeed.
westernized or is it globalized?
Globalized.
Is that a bad thing?
No, it's very good.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something that I lack.
Yeah.
And this is exactly why I wanted to
Yeah.
point on the
Yeah.
same point that we were talking about.
Yeah.
That what if you didn't have that aspect,
Personally, I think it helped me understanding that global aspect or that international aspect, and then kind of setting up a foundation and then implementing our culture to it. So kind of like pastry, understanding the function of every
Do you think
ingredient.
our media lacked proper food
representation?
Yes, food shows and all that.
100%.
You think it was Well,
it still does.
Yeah, I mean, it's still related to Ramadan, you know,
Right.
just for
cooking.
home cooking, just for entertainment's sake, just, you know, for time to pass by.
Yeah.
You know, it's not something that is considered
Yeah.
as an art
I
so
get
far in our media channels, right?
with my background.
Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah,
I still
talk.
get people asking me, can you make a traditional Emirati recipe? I'm like, I'm happy to. It's not my thing. It's just not my thing. And I don't know if there's anything wrong with that. I personally don't see anything wrong with that, because what I try to do is communicate that very recipe, that traditional recipe, and translate it into something much more modern, something more relatable, something. And it's not to say that like the traditional thing is not good. As I said, the integrity always remains. And that's what's important to me, because I feel like we're at a point right now, we're fairly a young country, I would say, 50 years, where we have access to our parents' or our grandparents' knowledge of ingredients and recipes, but we also have access to the resources to start developing Emirati cuisine. In the way that French people did, or in the way that Italian people did. Because they didn't start with the things that they had from the get-go. There were chefs that came in and revolutionized and modernized recipes and techniques, and we are very much right now at that sweet spot where we have access, direct access to knowledge and direct access to resources. So I feel we should now be establishing what we would consider Emirati cuisine, a revolutionized Emirati cuisine.
Do you have enough number of chefs, or, you know, do you have a good infrastructure for
It
for
takes
that?
one. When you think about
Interesting.
French pastry,
Nice.
the person that, what you know as French pastry right now, for example, the opera cake or the eclair or whatever it is, what you know right now as French pastry was revolutionized by one person, Gaston Lenotre. It takes one person. But we have more than one person, and that's great. It doesn't have to be just one person.
Interesting. Which university did you go to?
American University of Sharjah.
Oh, interesting. When was that? I was there.
Really?
Yeah.
I was there 2005 to 2009.
I left in 2005. That's where I've seen you before. Bingo. Yeah, I was there one semester. My last semester was fall 2005.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's why.
So you did the 1 year and then you left?
No, I did a year and a half and then I left.
Where did you go off?
San Diego.
Oh, nice.
Phoenix, then San Diego. Yeah.
Very nice.
I loved the experience of here, but I wanted that exposure.
Yeah.
Because I lacked what I lacked, you know.
Yeah.
It was still a Khaliji kind of atmosphere. I couldn't. I was like, there's nothing new with, it's me.
Yeah.
I needed to do something else because I didn't, and Ittihad was more of like, you know, a very Eastern kind of UAE national based, you know, kind of.
Yeah.
So
I think we switched.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I was pointing on that, because we had good, for example, social bonds, family, you know, networking, all of that, you know, we have leaders. Well, but, you know, there's always a payoff for certain things, you know, and we actually lacked that, you know, including management skills and all that. So I had to go to the States,
The
you know.
independent.
Yes, because relatively other schools were probably with curriculums a bit more strict. But with leadership skills, no, Ittihad was different because, you know, it's all about activities and, you know, being, you know, on the spot. Anyways, sadly, we didn't do cooking. Did you do cooking anymore?
We didn't do cooking.
Okay.
We didn't do cooking.
Okay. What was your major in AUS?
I was mass comm, and then I minored in design management.
So nothing that has to do with cooking yet?
At all. My parents were conservative, so I didn't have the luxury. I mean, they're still conservative.
One sec, because I need to make a point here. Your dad was in India when he was young, going there, and when we say that, you know, he was exposed to that, you know, British Indian culture, atmosphere. He got the language, he got the. So, define conservative because a lot of people, even within our UAE community, would see that actually just by being there or just by, liberal.
Yeah.
That's the definition. So
it was kind of confusing because
the stereotype, sorry.
Because with certain things they were a lot more open-minded and liberal. With things like I want to travel to another country to study at a university.
Yeah.
They were like, no, like you're our only daughter.
Interesting.
And with like things like I want to go to culinary school. No. You need a proper education. So it was kind of back and forth. I mean,
how did you deal with that?
It was difficult.
I mean, I get that umbrella of conservative.
My brothers had the luxury to travel abroad and study abroad.
How did that feel?
Not great. Not great.
Can you further elaborate?
It felt like a double standard.
And it's the whole society. It's the whole community.
And that's the whole society here, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's funny when it comes down to that, because I know ladies who have come from a much more conservative background than I did, who were able to travel abroad to study. So it was quite confusing to kind of like grasp that concept. I also knew kind of I wanted to go to culinary school. And since they weren't too happy about that idea, I then wasn't that excited to kind of push to study abroad. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you lost this.
Yeah.
You lost the momentum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm doing this for my parents. Like,
how was Moscow like?
It was okay.
Because you have good communication skills, I can tell. So
it seems.
No, but I mean, the majors suit you still. I mean,
yeah. I did well.
Yeah.
I did well, and after I graduated,
is it helping you with your cooking today?
100%.
Great. So you have a good balance.
Yes.
Perfect. Tell me about that.
After I graduated, I worked at Zayed University. In the comms and branding and social media department.
Nice.
Yes.
That's an interesting experience.
Very interesting. I loved it. I loved working at Zayed University because it was not for profit. So what we were doing with social media or branding or communications had nothing to do with like bringing in students or bringing in any kind of monetary aspect. It was purely to shine light on what Zayed University was doing. And that's it. So we highlighted, our colleges, our professors, our students mostly. We were just starting to find funding for all the institutes that were falling under the Zayed University umbrella. So it was a lot of fun. I loved it. But that's sort of that's where the transition started, where I was cooking more. My boss saw it. I loved my job, and she saw that. She's like, I know you love your job. I know you love what you're doing. I'm just so sure you love cooking more.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Your boss.
My boss.
So in a way, you're mentor towards cooking, I can say.
Yeah. So when she said that, I'm like, okay. Maybe I should.
Psychological, I mean, not the... Yeah. That's interesting that she found that. I mean, she highlighted that in you because usually, I mean, the case usually bosses are...
Right. And they say, like, chances are you'll leave your job because of a bad boss,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So she was an amazing boss.
Right.
And for her to tell me, I know you love cooking more, was kind of her telling me, you should try that out. And I did.
How many years were you at Zayed University?
I think almost 4 years.
Okay, good amount of time.
A good amount of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And after 4 years, your boss came?
After 4 years, it was at 3 years where she came to me, and at 3 years, I started experimenting. So I was already helping. My brothers had a restaurant called Wild Pita.
Okay.
And I was helping them make the desserts.
Take the name off, until they pay.
They're not open anymore.
No, whatever has to do with that.
And
No,
I was
kidding, just please.
yeah, and I was helping them make brownies. That's all. Like, it wasn't like anything complicated, but I was organized. I was disciplined with it. And then I started asking friends if they knew anybody in kitchens, and they started helping me go into kitchens. And I'd go in for like a day or two just to get an idea, because I had no expectations. I had no information. I had no idea what to like think about it.
What was new to you at that point?
Every time I went in, the chef would be like, you're never going to have a life. You're never going to see your family. You're never going to see your friends. Your feet are going to hurt all the time. You're going to be so exhausted all the time. You're going to work so many hours. Are you sure you want to do this? And I'm like, okay, I guess I don't. And it actually freaked me out. It would scare me into not wanting to do it. And I did that a couple of times until I'm like, no, like, this is a thing like I keep coming back to. I keep thinking about it.
But why was it common? I mean, this is more of like destructive, rather than, helping you grow as a chef.
Which one?
I mean, that attitude towards you. I mean, just capitalizing on the negative aspect of it.
Yeah, they weren't trying to be destructive.
Sorry.
They were trying to manage my expectations.
Okay.
Because people see chefs on TV and they think it's this glamorous life of cooking, and I think we get that a lot here in the UAE as well. Like,
so it is true.
Yeah.
Okay.
On TV, like, people, you think it's glamorous, but they're trying to adjust my expectations to say this is the reality of it, and I appreciate that. So yeah, I ended up applying to a job.
Yeah.
They gave me a contract, randomly caught up with one of my cousins, and he's like, what are you doing these days? I'm like, well, actually, I just got this contract. I'm going to change my job. And I hadn't signed the contract yet. He's like, listen, I know this person in HR. Why don't you go meet the guy? And I think they might have something for you. I'm like, no. Like, at this point, like, I had gone back and forth so much. I'm like, no. I need to commit to this. Like, I don't want to, like, change my mind right now.
Yeah, you're settled.
Yeah. He's like, no, just go. I went. They drove me to this restaurant, just recently opened. I walked in. They gave me a chef jacket. They're like, are you wearing comfortable shoes? I'm like, yeah. Okay, get in the kitchen. I'm like, what?
Your cousin?
It was the HR rep
the
from the other company.
Yeah,
He's like, okay, get in the kitchen. The chef was like, get in the kitchen. I'm like, what? I don't know what to do. I have no idea what to do. Zero. Never worked in a kitchen. And I did like a couple of hours. I was asking questions. I was trying to understand. I was asking the chef what to do. Things like that. Finished service. I didn't even know what a service was. A service, like a lunch service or lunch seating. I didn't even know what a service was back then. And he's like, okay, I'll give you a job, but you work like everybody else. I'm like, okay. And him explaining the idea behind his concept, it was a homegrown concept, Lacer. That was my first kitchen job.
Wow.
With Chef Izu. And him explaining the concept and the idea and his philosophy, that's what kind of made me reject the other contract and then say, okay, I'm going to come and work for you. I believe in this. What proceeded to happen was the company weren't sure how to draw up a contract for an Emirati chef. And so I waited about a year for them to figure it out, of me following up and had already... A year.
Wow.
Year.
Wow.
And I had already rejected that contract.
When was that?
That was...
Which year?
2013 or 14.
Okay.
When I started at Lacer, it was 2014.
Okay.
So it took a year of me waiting for my dream job, basically, which was maybe one of the most frustrating years of my life. Because now I'm still working, but I know that dream job is right there.
Yeah.
And like, I'm just waiting and I can't get to it.
Yeah. So close. But
It's so close, but so far.
Yeah.
But then I guess they figured it out. And that's where the chef journey started.
So now where the fun part starts. Tell me about that experience. شبيب بتحمل الصبح تشوف الشواكة هني ما تقول. I know بس يعني قول.
Oh, you want to try the pastries?
إيه كل الجيمات have some. So that
I want to wait for his reaction.
Chef Izu.
You low-key stole this recipe from me, by the way.
What?
لحظة. He's accusing you of stealing his own recipe.
And plagiarism and what else?
Yeah. So the Korean one I did the khamfaroush with the mascarpone filling على أساس it was like puff pastry.
No.
Yes, I was posting it all the time and you were like, oh, this looks interesting. The product.
There's absolutely no mascarpone in this recipe whatsoever.
اللي يغش ما يغش سيدة.
تعرف المثل حرامي ما يقصى حرامي.
في طعم حلوة حليب والجيمات.
زي you felt الجيمات يعني.
You feel the gemat, right?
Didn't look like.
Just send me the chore.
Thanks.
You got the approval from the hard grader. Right?
I know, right? He's always giving me a hard time.
The harsh grader.
You're like worse than like.
That's because I love you.
Is it?
يجاملك. So Chef Izu.
Yes.
يعني was like, you gotta join. It took you a year. Then it started in this year.
Then it started the most difficult transition of my life. The most difficult job, the most difficult time, physically, emotionally, mentally, but also the most rewarding. When I started, my parents weren't too happy about it.
Again. Is it this overprotective behavior that where parents really go into like the decision-making process and they interfere? Not your family, because I and many other friends in this society and members of it struggled with that. It was just natural back then.
Yeah.
Because they knew more than that.
Yeah.
It's not like today's generation where they have everything through just so they had a say.
It was protective because it was unfamiliar. I say this.
Were they worried about the environment or the atmosphere and so? Okay.
So I say this. I've said this before. Like when your mom or your dad wants to like find out about something, they call your aunt or your uncle, right? They had no one to call. So in theory or in concept, right? Yeah. So they didn't know what to expect. It was completely unfamiliar. It hadn't been done in the community. Right. Aside from that, it was a taboo job, right? It's the translation of the word طباخة. تكونين طباخة? Like, no, I'll be a chef one day. But like, what are people gonna say?
Pleasing people.
What are people? I think if I'm not mistaken, for the longest time, people didn't know what I did. And I had to go into this telling my parents, I'm just going to do it for a year and I'll understand what's going on and then I'll open my own place.
See, this is my thing with languages. This is why we speak English here. Now, if I say dancer is accepted relatively in comparison to raggasa.
Yes. Right.
Chef is so different than طباخة.
Right.
Nothing is wrong with طباخة.
Right.
But there's a way, there's
the connotation is bad.
Exactly. There's a way. I don't know. I just don't, even with us in singing. يعني حتى مثلا اللي يعزف إيقاع. ما نقول الحين واحد يدق طبل. No, هو ضابط إيقاع. لأن he's in an orchestra, he's doing his job within something within music. So once you give a proper description, it changes the whole.
Right.
But why do you think? I mean, chef is way acceptable. It's prestigious, actually.
It is.
In comparison to
it's a very
something that's
respectable
completely
job, right?
Yeah.
It's a respectable job, but
Yeah.
طباخة isn't. And it gets lost in translation.
I mean, with all respect to our, I respect كلمة طباخة, but you're
Of
talking about
course.
the stereotype.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm talking about like the negative connotation
Yeah.
that comes with that word. And I think that's the reason why even in Arabic nowadays, they use chef. Because they want to kind of divert from that.
صار كل باب مرة واحدة عشان الصوت. شبيب لازم شوي أنت كل ما خليته شوي كل ما خرب أكثر الموضوع. زين. Yeah.
That's why we use the word chef right now.
Yeah.
But with this lost in translation episode, I think it gets difficult to communicate with your older generations. I think we spoke about this last time.
Yeah.
It becomes difficult to communicate with them. And so that's why I told them, I'm only going to do this for a year. Through whatever I was going through.
You had to give them that it was a temporary kind of,
Yes.
so they don't set an expectation
Yes.
that, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they knew there was an expiry date on it.
Okay.
And then during the time, whatever I was going through, if I was crying in the bathroom or crying in the prayer room or in the break room or whatever, I never told them what was happening.
Yeah.
I never told them because they would tell me, okay, you chose this, okay, stop.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to stop.
But that's the case when you pursue your dream, no?
Right.
Yeah.
Everything is difficult.
That's actually, I mean, this is what I say to Shabib, that's actually what creates the value.
Yeah.
You know, the suffering that you
Yeah.
go through, because until you succeed. But anyways, interesting. keep going. I'm relating, you know?
There was one day.
Yeah.
We had this French toast, and you had to like brulee the top with chocolate, sugar, and caramelize it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was still early on when I had started, and I went to pick it up and put it on the plate, and it flipped, and the caramel was still hot, and it burnt my fingers, like burn, and sugar and butter goes through your skin.
Ouch.
So it just continues to go deeper and burn more. And I hadn't experienced that before. I was dying, and they're like, yeah, just finish service and finish this dinner and then like go and do what you need to do.
Who was that? Sorry.
It was one of the chefs, because they were used to it. They're like, yeah, we gotta go, customer needs the French toast. Okay.
Wow.
So I kept going. I was dying on the inside, my mouth shut, trying to do another, I think it was another hour and a half or 2 hours.
Kidding me.
As soon as I left, I started crying in the car.
You're gonna burst.
And I'm looking at my hands and I'm like, this would never happen at Zayed University.
It's now when you compare. It's now when you compare.
But yeah, so that,
this
and then there was a lot of other things. There was an opportunity where my chef sent me to Paris to learn bread making, and
Nice.
and I was so excited about that. But there was the aspect of like the stereotype of Emiratis being handed everything on a silver platter. And so when I was telling one of my colleagues about it, and he's like, must be nice to be Emirati.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I mean, not that I work hard, like, and people don't realize, like I said, it took a year to get my dream job. When people were on break, I was working overtime to catch up. I was reading and like watching things just to make sure that like I'm catching up with everybody else's years of experience. But there's still that stigma or that stereotype about Emiratis being handed everything on a silver platter.
Yeah.
And that took a big toll on me.
I mean, I'm glad you're using silver. It's usually golden
Gold
platter.
platter. We'll get to that at Burj Al
That's Burj Al.
Delete that.
I don't think I could. you deal with your friend.
And I dealt with that a lot. And in the beginning, it really bothered me because we grew up in sort of a bubble, right?
Yeah.
Nobody had burst our bubble.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, everybody's like, bursting my bubble. And I'm like, I'm trying my best here. I'm like working hard. Didn't matter. People were asking me like if I had my own horse, or even as a joke, very condescending, how many camels do you have? And then bullying me, saying, you know, like, must be nice to be Emirati. Or
I mean, it's definitely a pleasure to be an Emirati, but
Of
I mean,
course.
but what you're talking about, they think that, I mean,
It's
the
in a bad
stereotype
way.
in a bad way, yeah. That everything
it's
is just
100% a privilege to be Emirati.
Yeah.
It's 100% to be given the things that we have been given. But don't come to me and explain that to me or talk to me in a condescending way. Tell me how I can help you with my privilege, and I'll be more than happy to help you with my privilege.
Yeah. Yeah.
What can I help you with? Because I have resources, and that is, you know, as much as I can to my capacity, I will help. But don't come and tell me you're handed things on a silver platter. That's absolutely not true.
Yeah. And it's discrediting your own qualifications, yeah.
It's the essence of a terrible stereotype, right? When you don't know somebody, and this is what we said before, you haven't interacted with Emiratis, how can you proceed to come and tell me who I am or who we are and what we're like?
Well, that's what the podcast is about, so probably you have the chance to answer back.
Well, I mean, I think, or I hope, my work speaks for itself, and that's the best that I can do. Yeah. To earn
Agree.
the kind of respect, for people to know that I didn't take any shortcuts. Like when I started at Lasser, I was a commie. I was, you know, peeling 40 kilos of apples every day and like doing all of the terrible jobs that like nobody wants to do, or like you just have to put in the work and earn that respect, and then your work will speak for itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and it's not just me, I'm not saying that like,
but
everybody does that in different scopes.
Yeah. What was your mechanism in terms of dealing with, you know, these kind of obnoxious comments, you know, or behaviors, or you as Sahar now, as a chef, what's your way of, you know, calming yourself down? Or
right now,
did you get into trouble because of that?
Because of,
you know, arguments or so, because of such?
Yeah, a couple.
Yeah.
A couple.
Yeah.
A couple.
Okay. But then you managed it differently, right?
You start to understand that it's not your problem,
Mm-hmm.
right? Mm-hmm. It's a deflection.
Yep.
And so now I laugh at it, or I joke back at it. If people ask me if I have a camel, I'm like, yeah, it's parked outside. Like, what do you want me to say, dude?
Sparked outside.
Where before it was like, okay, I need to get through this like really terrible moment and then go to the bathroom and cry this out, and then come back. I can't let them see me cry it out. Like they can't know that they got to me. Now it's kind of realizing it's not about me. It's a deflection. It's, you know, unimportant when you know what your goals are, what your vision is, what your philosophy is, and you know where you want to go. Unimportant what other people say.
Definitely.
Your work, that's all that matters. Like, put in your energy into your work. Make sure you are producing at your best capacity, and that's all.
So, how long did you stay in Lasser?
Not 2 years, little less than 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And then 5 years at Burj Al Arab.
So, last couple of, how was Lasser's, Chef Izu was, your, in a way, your guide.
Yeah.
Your
mentor.
Mentor in a way, but it's hard to leave a mentor, you know?
It is. It's hard to leave a mentor, but you also need to grow, right? Where Lasser was one restaurant, or let's say 2 restaurants, upstairs and downstairs.
Yeah.
I moved to Burj Al Arab. It was 9 restaurants. So it was a completely different experience.
What took you to Burj Al Arab? Tell me about that.
People ask me all the time, by the way, like, did you have a wasla to get into
I don't
Burj
know.
Al
Yeah,
Arab?
exactly. Because it's very uncommon
Yeah.
to just say that we have an Emirati pastry chef for Burj Al Arab.
Yeah.
And as simple as that.
I had a friend that was working at Jumeirah Group.
Mhm.
It wasn't a wasla.
Mm.
She's like, and I had left Laser, and I always do this thing where I would leave my job, not jump into another job.
You'll have a break?
I'll take a break.
Okay.
And I did the same thing with university.
Nice.
So like, finished high school, take a break, then start. She's like, we're having an open day. All the hotel HR representatives are there. Go have a look and see if there's anything that you like.
That's good networking. That's not wasla.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I went there, and then I was telling them, you know, I worked at Laser like this, and there was another hotel that was interested that I wasn't interested in. And then the HR representative from Burj Al Arab, my friend told him, you know, she didn't take that other job. And he initially wanted to propose the job to me,
Mhm.
but because that other person jumped in, wasn't able to, out of, you know, courtesy. And so he called me, and I went in, and I met the executive pastry chef at the time, and we spoke, and he was great. I liked his background. He worked with some of the most amazing chefs internationally. He had an
Do you want to mention names or?
Yeah, he worked with, so he was he was Pierre Hermé's second-hand man, so he was like his right-hand man, and they opened Pierre Hermé's first shop together. He worked with Pierre Garnier. He worked with Ellen DeRose at the Connaught. Yeah.
I'm just impressed.
Yeah. And then where else did he work? So those were the three
Amazing
notable
credentials,
ones.
yeah.
And that was impressive to me, and I saw the pastries, and I saw that they were doing things that were different than what was available in the rest of Dubai. And 5 years ago, you couldn't find much good pastries. Now, I mean, it's a lot better. People are really coming into, like, in the last 2 or 3 years maybe, they've come into like producing better things. 5 years ago, not so much. When we were younger, not so much. You got the Black Forest cake from Jamia, right? For your birthday. So I saw that. He explained to me that
Which I love.
Yeah, nostalgic. He explained to me that they make almost everything from scratch. They don't take shortcuts. They really try to, you know, perfect the recipes. They had a good team, and it was a central kitchen. This was a little bit important because in the central kitchen, we were producing everything for the entire hotel.
Wow.
All the pastries, all the fine dining restaurants, all the buffet restaurants, all the bread, all the croissants, everything. So I'm like, this is amazing. I can learn everything right here. So I took the job. And I guess he liked me too. So I got the job.
Well done.
Yeah.
Tell me about the experience over there. At such a reputable, luxurious hotel. Definitely there's loads of pressure.
A lot of pressure.
Loads of, you know,
Expectation.
responsibilities and expectations.
Yeah.
How did you cope with that at the beginning?
It was a big transition because I went from a small restaurant to a big hotel.
Oh, yeah.
And like a very big hotel. So it takes time to kind of adapt to it. It takes at least 3 to 6 months to adapt. But you just have to be disciplined and keep going. And I was doing R&D and recipe development with my chef. He was very keen on doing that, and I was happy to do that with him. And that was a lot of what I learned from him, and a lot of my foundation in the way that I'm organized or disciplined or the way that I work comes from that. And working with him and kind of shadowing him or helping him or research and development with him really sort of was very insightful and built a really amazing foundation, I think. In terms of operations, very intense. You always, at all times, had to keep everything at a standard, at a very high standard. There were a lot of expectations, and you couldn't say no to the guests.
Well, that's hospitality, right?
Right. But specifically, if you're staying at Burj Al Arab, you have high expectations.
Yeah, I mean, in hotel, I mean, the customer is the king, and that's rule number one. Rule number two, if he's wrong, you're right.
But it was.
Go back to rule number one.
But I loved it because people were giving you that responsibility, right? They were trusting you with their, I've saved up to come and spend one night of my birthday here, and like I want the most.
So you always have to impress.
Right. This is the hotel that I chose. So you're like, I feel really proud that you chose us.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will make this the best that I can for you. And that's just ongoing. And I love the fact that in the hotel, it's never a boring day and it's always different.
It's where you get your own rush, right?
Right.
Yeah, your serotonin, your
the
own.
Endorphins.
Exactly, endorphins.
Crazy.
Yeah. I'm getting chills just you imagine. Yeah. That's really good.
So I loved it there. And then, 3 years later, I'd been in the same position. So 3 years later, we had a new director general or managing director. And I guess he saw something in me. I did a tasting for him to kind of understand what I'm capable of and what my philosophy is. And that's where my philosophy or my kind of style started kicking in. Because when you have an executive chef, you follow their style. You follow their philosophy, right? You don't really have a say much. You communicate. There's like back and forth, like, I think we should do this or that. But essentially, you're following your executive chef. Yeah. It's very militaristic,
Militaristic.
Yes. In the kitchen as well. Nerd moment in my brain.
I felt it. I was like, bingo.
So that's where I started kind of developing my own philosophy and my own kind of voice in the pastries that I was making or the dishes that I was making. And so when I did the tasting for him, he kind of saw that and gave me this huge promotion.
Oh, you felt empowered, so
he empowered me.
He empowered you.
He empowered me.
Good. So
yeah. He empowered me to find my voice, and then following that, the huge promotion. It was kind of like a double or triple promotion sort of situation, where I ended up becoming one of the head chefs.
Well, you deserve it.
Yeah.
You deserve it.
And then they proceeded to mentor me, and this is an important aspect of being an Emirati. I know that people focus on us in terms of amortization and development and things like that, but it does come back to you taking advantage of that opportunity, right? Most companies have that, we want to develop Emiratis, we want to create opportunities for them, we want them to grow. Again, it comes back to us to kind of grasp that opportunity. And
I completely agree.
And they did that for me, and they were willing to mentor me. And these were people that were in the industry for so many years in amazing hotels and amazing establishments. And I just wanted to take advantage of their knowledge of this opportunity. And so they helped me develop and grow my voice and my philosophy into what it is today.
Very well done.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, it feels rewarding just listening to this because, just feeling that hard work pays back, after all of these, struggles and all of this pressure that you were going through and all that.
A lot of pressure.
How important,
lot of hours.
Tell me about that. What don't they know about what's behind the scenes in the kitchen? I mean, or what does it feel like? Oh, what are your responsibilities right now as a head? What is your job description, if I may ask?
A lot of pressure, still very male dominated. Still.
Well, they say that males are better cooks than.
I would tread lightly if I were you.
Well, I mean, Michelin stars. I mean, I'm talking about numbers here. Existence.
Equal opportunity, let's say. As long as you're talented,
I'm not
it
being
doesn't
sexist.
matter.
I'm talking
Gender
about
equality.
No, maybe
No, I
because
know.
opportunities were not available for females. So probably it's
Right.
getting balanced right now. So
Right. It wasn't that opportunities weren't available. It's that opportunities were. How do I say this?
do you
Sorry.
think that females didn't have guts enough?
No, it's the opportunities were taken from them. So in a male-dominated industry, in a kitchen where they're like, it's military, and they're like pirates, and they're swearing and doing whatever it is that they want. It's difficult for
a female to be
in that environment, and it's almost like, an old school mentality would be that, we don't want this girl coming in and like disrupting our very comfortable environment in our comfort zone. So like, no females in the kitchen.
Wow.
Yeah. Narratives have changed also. Like where before it was you do what I say, it's kind of changed to more communication based. So the kitchen environment is changing. Obviously, gender equality is a huge topic.
Are you with gender equality or giving proper? I mean, I don't want to use the word equity because but it's this common phrase. I mean, it's about who needs what. It's not about equality, equal opportunities, equal 50% kind of things.
I'm not a 50%.
Yeah.
I'm not a feminist. I am. If you're capable, you're capable. I don't care if you're female or male. The right person for the right job, and that is all. That's what I believe.
Yeah, because a lot of people misuse the word equality,
right,
in that sense,
right,
and they would assume that
that's equality to me.
Yeah,
that's equality to me. I don't necessarily. I'm not a feminist. I feel like the word feminist is starting off on the wrong foot because it already implies.
Not that I agree, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
You don't agree?
No, I personally agree that it applies not only on feminism but on many different levels right now,
right,
which I don't want to talk about. But it's just becoming a habit that, not only that, not only that, it's just, I didn't like in my own case, I didn't like when people, I didn't like one of, these famous celebrities, capitalized on mental health to make money that is equivalent to the Super Bowl, And that was really obvious for any psychologist to see if that was real or not.
Yeah.
I genuinely did not like that because I know how it feels to be depressed, and I know how it feels. I went to therapy, I went to all of that, and it's not like the way it's represented. So when someone tries to make money out of that, it's unacceptable.
Right.
And for me, it's just people who, ride feminism or even masculinism or whatever it is on a boat, and just use it to, go wherever they want it to go. It's just like any other ideology.
To their convenience.
I mean, life is not about black or white. It's about creating the proper balances, right?
Equal opportunity.
I mean, you're getting an equation and you're having a result, and you have different inputs, and with these inputs, it's about how we utilize them, right? And then have a proper equation to have good results.
Yeah.
So if we actually detach a lot of these inputs by just putting them or, narrowing them to numbers, or, we're really being harmful here.
Yeah.
And it's harming. I sadly say that. Number one, houses and families.
Yeah.
We started losing these bonds because of these issues.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't want to. A lot of people who misused feminism are now, using it just to get divorced and get the guy who's going to just pay for the kids and have her life. And ما أبغى واحد إلا على كبدي. I'm just gonna have my work. I have my kids. Let me live it.
Yeah.
I know friends who actually use this.
Really?
Yeah, I know people who actually did that intentionally, who got married and but I don't want to go into them. But I'm like, these are the people that really have very bad, impact on whatever something could represent, by definition. When you say, or by, terminology, feminist, or it might be initially a good approach, or a good philosophy, or a good, ideology, whatever you want to call it. It was based on rights, asking for rights, all of that. But not to override.
But it alters perception, right?
Yeah.
It alters your perception. If I say feminism, it alters your perception more than if I say, are you the right person for the right job, for this job, right? How do you feel about those two things separately?
I'm not here to answer. I mean, I think I
feel
spoke
like I've
much.
talked a lot.
I spoke much. Well, you're the guest.
You're
That's
talking
why.
way too much right now.
No. That's all about it. We're here to listen to you.
Okay, so my scope of work behind the scenes, to answer your question before, it's a lot more than just, at this point, it's not so much production of pastry, it's managing the team, almost being like a psychologist, because it's tough to work in that environment. And then we forget the fact that these people are away from their families. And they're in a foreign country. And for whatever reason, people never forget that I'm Emirati. So there's always tiptoeing.
Why do I feel like, I mean, that's not the case, but there's always, because of the stereotype, it's such a burden.
It is. More of a burden. I'm discriminated against in my own country more than anybody else. I don't know if anybody else feels that way. I feel like I'm being discriminated against.
Why?
The stereotype.
Yeah.
Don't touch an Emirati, or don't talk to an Emirati, or if you say.
Do you think that we're responsible of that?
It stems from somewhere.
Okay.
But I think it's terrible to generalize.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But like in all cultures or in all countries, there are good people and bad people.
But we're hardworking people.
We are.
I mean, if you're not qualified, you're not going to get whatever you're going to get. I mean, it's a competitive place with very high, caliber, in all fields and aspects.
But if you're not qualified for a job,
exactly,
can they replace you?
Definitely. Everyone is replaceable. Right now, things are changing.
Yeah.
I mean, with new laws and new, contracts and all of that.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about, and I'm honestly one of the. I wouldn't say I'm an advocate of being against it. No, but do it in a very structured and systematic way. So I'm really enjoying the fact that if someone is going to get hired, it's going to get hired on a contract.
Yeah.
If they're qualified enough, they continue having another contract.
Yeah.
If not, they leave.
Yeah.
That's fair enough, because it's about productivity. It's about things are changing.
Right.
And I think it's driving us to actually be even more and more competitive and learn more, and it's a very healthy that transition that we didn't have. We didn't have that at the past.
Yeah.
But what do you think is another way of solving this problem? As a chef now within that scope. What are forms of awareness that could help, if you're feeling suppressed to that, that much, whether because you're feminine or there's a stereotype of you being, getting everything on a silver platter or whatever. All of these, what are the solutions from a chef's perspective?
I think.
Who would you start with?
You kind of have to. You start close to you, right? Like any other job.
Domino effect.
Yeah. Being a good example or leading by example is really important.
Right.
And kind of just showing people what you want them to see, right? I want you to see that you don't have to be scared to talk to me. I'll communicate with you. I'll talk to you. I'll joke with you. So please offer me the same courtesy. I'll work if you work. not if you work. I'll work and you work.
Yeah.
Right? I'll communicate and you communicate. Yeah. It's not an if and it's not a but. Yeah. It's and. Yeah. Side by side. Yeah. Together.
In parallel.
Yeah. And that's just, you start with yourself and you start with the people around you, and then hopefully that grows, and then people will see that, again, your attitude or your work will speak for itself.
Yeah.
That's as much as you can do. You can't force people to do anything.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So you just, lead by example. Change the perception. Be more approachable. Be more approachable.
You think that we kind of like tend to isolate ourselves? Us locals?
No.
Within our communities or so?
Like I said before, it's normal for us to be around other cultures.
Thank you.
So no, I don't. And we're used to learning from the outside world. So if you come to me and you have something that I can learn from, or something that I can talk to you about, something that we have a shared interest, we're very comfortable with that.
Tell me about karaking. And COVID, because I'm not going to wrap this up without talking about COVID.
How are we doing on time?
We're doing well. Don't even worry about that. So tell me about COVID, your challenges, and karaking.
Huge challenge. My brother, Marwan, started karaking January 1st, 2020. Right in the middle of COVID. Obviously, we didn't know that.
The beginning.
We didn't know that was going to happen. And then in March, he had his official opening. And then a week later, they announced the lockdown.
Oh, wow.
So Miskini was just getting started, and then it didn't work out. And everybody was in lockdown, so I was at home. And I was working from home. And this is what I mean when I say it's not just making pastries at work. People are like, how are you making pastries at home? How are you working from home? I know that's what you wanted to ask.
No. No. I did want to ask.
There's a lot of strategy that goes into menu development, into training the staff, we were re-strategizing for the reopening. We were expecting to open shortly after the hotel. A lot of communication with the management, assisting the hotels that were open. But essentially I was working from home. And the same way that you do with anybody else, you send videos to each other. Yeah. My brother and I were sending videos to each other. And then he's like, do you want to do something at Karak Inc? Do you want to help out? I'm like, yeah, sure. Let's start adding a couple of things to the menu.
Yeah, because I wanted to talk about innovation within that scope. Yeah. So
let's start adding stuff to the menu that will kind of help you and get Karak Inc. out there.
So that's you in the market now.
That's me in the market now. I was already in the market.
No, I mean privately, completely. I mean, not being part of an institution. It's just your brother's kind of,
Yeah.
So it's your personal experience all, just with the market.
It's my 180. Okay. It's my, Karak Inc. is my 180 from Burj Al Arab. It was back and forth. So we just went into the kitchen and started testing different recipes, and we started off with drinks, easy things, and we were just testing until we came up with a bunch of drinks that we added to the menu. Then I'm like, things are opening up now a little bit, and this was in July, and why don't we do a collaboration with chefs or some people that we know, and then add those things to the menu, and that'll help add a little bit more value to the menu as well. So we did our first pop-up in collaboration with Matar Farm, with Hatem Matar. And it was a huge success. People were coming in. It was the middle of July, and we don't have indoor seating. It was outdoor seating. But people were willing to come and hang out and have the food. and listen to good music. My brother's in the entertainment business, and have good food. Hatem makes amazing barbecue. I sort of have a background.
Sort of.
And that happened, and then we introduced the dishes on the menu. And then I'm like, why don't we do another one? And then another one. And then this whole community started growing of like people were looking forward to our pop-ups of what we were doing, and we were adding things to the menu, and we were doing collaborations and growing and growing and growing. And that's kind of where we are right now. Like, we have this community of people who are looking forward to what we're going to add next and what we're doing. And it's sort of offering, at its core, Karak Inc. was meant to be a hole-in-the-wall, drive-by Karak place in the middle of Jumeirah. It's in Box Park.
Box Park, yeah.
So just to drive by and get your daily Karak. And now it's just grown into this like gourmet street food with like great quality ingredients, but we kind of put our own Karak Inc. twist on it. And it worked. And that's where it is right now.
Well done. But one thing interesting, that a lot of people complain about prices within the F&B industry.
Yeah.
I honestly don't get it, because it's majorly, burgers and coffee, specialty coffee. I don't get why they're expensive.
Yeah.
Can you
a lot of factors
justify?
A lot of factors go into it. I do agree. Some things are just really unnecessarily overpriced. But a lot of factors go into it because landlords aren't specifically accommodating or lenient with smaller medium enterprises or smaller medium businesses that can't afford to pay that much rent. But unfortunately, if you're not in those specific locations, people won't come to you.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to dish out that cash for that rent. And then there's equipment, and there's staff, and there's food cost, and then there's, a lot of things that go into it that makes an otherwise small and inexpensive concept like a coffee place very expensive.
So it's not the ingredients.
It's somewhat the ingredients. I mean, the better quality ingredients that
operational
you have,
costs
but
yes,
those are a majority of the burden for operators or for owners. If
there's anything you want to change within this industry, in general, not in the UAE.
What would I change in the industry? What would I change in the industry? Oh. I'm going to think about that and come back.
Sleep on it.
Yeah.
Share the answer with Shabib. I'm so happy to have you on the show.
Thank you for
having
having me.
It's great to have you.
Time flew.
I didn't even notice, and I was just looking back and forth, and I wasn't able. But thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
That was such an amazing journey going through all that. Well done.
Thanks.
Well deserved, and good luck with your future projects.
Thank you.
Wallah, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
So Ghanwa presents who we are. نحن من from MNK Studios in Dubai. This is Abdullah al-Mistari talking to you. See ya. Thank you. That was great.
How was that?
That was great. You
I feel
did
like
well.
I was talking so much.
It's a podcast.
Enough.
It's a podcast. No, you were doing well. Great. Well done.